blessing upon me this day. Surely that was not the outcome of a great, magnanimous spirit, like that of the Roman emperor, who declared, "I had rather keep a single Roman citizen alive than slay 1,000 enemies." Compare the last command given to the children of Israel with the words of Marcus Aurelius: "I have formed an idea of the state in which there is the same law for all, and equal rights and equal liberty of speech established for all; an empire where nothing is honored so much as the freedom of the citizens." I am on the side of the Roman emperor. What is more beautiful than the old story from Sufi? There was a man who for 7 years did every act of good, every kind of charity, and at the end of the 7 years he mounted the steps to the gate of heaven and knocked. A voice cried, "Who is there?" He cried, "Thy servant, O Lord," and the gates were shut. 7 other years he did every good work, and again mounted the steps to heaven and knocked. The voice cried, "Who is there?" He answered, "Thy slave, O God," and the gates were shut. 7 other years he did every good deed, and again mounted the steps to heaven, and the voice said, "Who is there?" He replied, "Thyself, O God," and the gates wide open flew. Is there anything in our religion so warm or so beautiful as that? Compare that story from a pagan with the Presbyterian religion. Take this story of Ingersoll, who was a king of Egypt, and started for the place where the horizon touched the earth, where he was to meet God. With him followed Argun and Bemis and Traubation. They were taught that when any man started after God in that way, if he had been guilty of any crime, he would fall by the way. Ingersoll walked at the head, and suddenly he missed Argun. He said he was not always merciful in the hour of victory. A little while after he missed Bemis, and said he fought not so much for the rights of man as for his own glory. A little farther on he missed Traubation. He said, "My God, I know no reason for his failing to reach the place where the horizon touches the earth." And the god Ram appeared to him, and opening the curtains of the sky, said to him, "Enter." And Ingersoll said, "But where are my brethren? Where are Arjun and Benis and Traubation?" And the god said, "They sinned in their time, and they are condemned to suffer below." Then said Ingersoll, "I do not wish to enter into your heaven without my friends. If they are below, then I will join them." But the god said, "They are here before you. I simply said this to try your soul." Ingersoll simply turned and said, "But what of my dog?" The god said, "Thou knowest that if the shadow of a dog fall upon the sacrifice it is unclean. How then can a dog enter heaven?" And Ingersoll replies, "I know that, and I know another thing, that ingratitude is the blackest of crimes, whether it be to man or beast. That dog has been my faithful friend. He has followed me, and I will not desert even him." And the god said, "Let the dog follow." Compare that with the Bible stories. Long before the advent of Christ, Aristotle said we should conduct ourselves towards others as we would have them conduct themselves toward us. Seneca said, "Do not to your neighbor what you would not have your neighbor do to you." Socrates said, "Act toward others as you would have others act toward you. Forgive your enemies, render good for evil, and kiss even the hand that is upraised to smite." Krishna said, "Cease to do evil, aim to do well, love your enemies. It is the law of love that virtue is the only thing that has strength." Poor, miserable pagans! Did you ever hear anything like this? Is it possible that one of the authors of the New Testament was inspired when he said that man was not created for woman, but woman for man? Epictetus said, "What is more delightful than to be so dear to your wife as to be on her account dearer even to yourself?" Compare that with St. Paul. But I would have you know that the head of every man is Christ, and the head of the woman is the man, and the head of Christ is God. Wives, submit yourselves unto your husbands as unto the Lord. That was inspiration. This was written by a poor, despised heathen. In whatever house the husband is contented with the wife, and the wife with the husband, in that house will fortune dwell. In the house where the woman is not honored, let the curse be pronounced. Where the wife is honored, there God is truly worshiped. I wish Jehovah had said something like that from Sinai. Is there anything as beautiful as this in the New Testament? Shall I tell you where nature is more blessed and fair? It is where those we love abide. Though the space be small, it is ample as earth. Though it be a desert, through it run the rivers of paradise. Compare these things with the curses pronounced in the Old Testament, where you read of the heathen being given over to butchery and death, and the women and babes to destruction. And after you have read them, read the chapters of horror in the New Testament, threatening eternal fire and flame. And then read this, the greatest thought uttered by the greatest of human beings. The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. 'Tis mightiest in the mighty. It becomes the throned monarch better than his crown. Compare that with your doctrine of the New Testament. If Jehovah was an infinite God and knew things from the beginning, he knew that his Bible would be a breastwork behind which tyranny and hypocrisy would crouch, and knew his Bible would be the auction block on which the mother would stand while her babe was sold from her, because he knew his Bible would be quoted by tyrants, that it would be quoted in defense of robbers called kings, and by hypocrites called priests. He knew that he had taught the Jewish people. He knew that he had found them free and left them slaves. He knew that he had broken every single promise made to them. He knew that while other nations advanced in knowledge, in art, in science, his chosen people were subjects still. He promised them the world, he gave them a desert. He promised them liberty, and made them slaves. He promised them power, he gave them exile. And any one who reads the Old Testament is compelled to say that nothing could add to their misery. Let us be honest. How do you account for this religion, this world? Where did it come from? You hear every minister say that man is a religious animal, that religion is natural. While man is an ignorant animal, man will be a theological animal, and no longer. Where did we get this religion? The savage knew but little of nature, but thought that everything happened in reference to him. He thought his sins caused earthquakes, and that his virtues made the sunshine. Nothing is so egotistical as ignorance. You know, and so do I, that if no human being existed, the sun would shine, and that tempests would now and then devastate the earth. Violets would spread their velvet bosoms to the sun, daisies would grow, roses would fill the air with perfume, and now and then volcanoes would illuminate the horizon with their lurid glare. The grass would grow, the waters would run, and so far as nature is concerned, everything would be as joyous as though the earth were filled with happy homes. We know the barbarian savage thinks that all this was on his account. He thinks that there dwelt two very powerful deities; that there was a good one, because he knows good things happened to him.